ways. And we start off in New York. Eric Yaverbaum, he's with us before, of course. You've seen him on this show as well. Here to talk about the internet and how free communication, is it over? And was it ever really, truly free? Eric joins us live in New York. Eric, you can find him also at the Real Yaverbaum on Twitter. Eric, thanks for joining us from New York.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Anytime. So, there's a lot of ways we can go with this, but, the Edward Snowden thing, I think, is the best way to kind of start things off. I mean, I think people at home don't really understand the connection necessarily to why this is such a big case, whether they're for what he's done, against what he's done, or, again, have no idea.
Well, really, no, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think that people at home understand. I think some people do. The issue of invasion of privacy is now coming to the forefront. The irony of the issue is that the mainstream media isn't covering it. What the mainstream media is covering is, where's Snowden now? He just left the airport a few hours ago. Oh, boy, now we have a story for another day or two. What people aren't talking about is the information that he's revealed that now all of us know, everybody. You don't have to be working, for the CIA or the Pentagon or the White House. Everybody knows what Edward Snowden has told us. And what he's told us is that the government knows a lot about us. If you are on the internet, and I've been saying this for so many years, and you type it on your keyboard once, you are starting to develop a pattern that will tell everybody who wants to watch things about you.
Right. You make a good point, because it's not just the government, but corporations. I mean, you always hear about people bashing corporations because they know too much about us. They follow us too much. They know our every move, our every decision, basically, especially now with technology, with computers and laptops and tablets and phones and smartphones, that they know too much about us. But really, when you look at it, corporations may know less about us than what our own government knows.
Well, many corporations, Google, Facebook, they've willingly given information to the U.S. government so that the U.S. government can track all sorts of things. I mean, Google now, you opt in for all of these invasions of privacies. I mean, when I put my pictures on Facebook, they're there for everybody, forever. I can take them back off of Facebook if I want, but they're out there now. Anything that I've ever said, anything I've ever said on this show, you cannot take it back once it's out there. And we actually opt in for much of this. And corporations, yeah, they try to sell us stuff, and they take advantage of our patterns and what we're interested in. I mean, Google now, which you can only get, I think if you have an Android, it's in beta, but Google now will basically tell you things before you even think of them based on your, complete history, from the time you get up in the morning to whatever news you're watching, to how you get to work by train, by car, to what highway, to where the traffic is, to when your meetings are. It's kind of frightening.
It is frightening, and I think that people at home should care because of this. You're being monitored everything you do. As one of my friends told me, who is in a high-tech agency in the government, basically from the time you get up and you turn even before you get up, your phones, for example, my iPhone, which I'm going to show you a gadget for later, the BlackBerry, my tablets, they all connect with the outside world, whether you're using them or not.
Right,
and it tells you the pattern. So when you're moving, for example, let's say I don't even use my phone. It's turned off, and it's in my car, or in my room charging, and then I carry it with me to my car. Again, it's still off. And I drive to work, and it's still off. I forget to turn it on. They have a record of the times of where I have gone. And what's even more amazing to me is if I took the battery out of this BlackBerry, for example, took the battery out, so it's just a shell, they can still monitor with the camera and the audio. They can get the microphone off this thing, even when the battery is detached from the unit. So, I mean, this goes above and beyond, really, what I think most Americans even understand.
Well, yeah, it does. It goes above and beyond. You're absolutely correct. I mean, people don't realize this. I mean, you walk around with your smartphone. You may as well be walking around with a 24/7 broadcast of yourself forever, with every single word you say, with every single solitary penny you spend. And people don't realize this, whatsoever, until it comes to their home and something that they did that they thought was private wasn't private. Here's, the news, as I've been saying for 5 years now, nothing's private. You do it on your computer, it's not private, it never will be. I also said, 5 years ago here, I said somebody someday is going to run for president of the United States. They'll be a very qualified candidate, and they're going to get knocked out, of the race because of something that they did on the internet. And lo and behold, you have Anthony Weiner, who mostly people make fun of, is the butt of a lot of jokes. We've watched his candidacy fall apart. if you know politicians and you knew this guy, that guy is a highly, highly, highly qualified politician. He knows how to get legislation passed, and that's what you want from politicians, but he doesn't have a shot. He's done. That could have been the guy who maybe someday could have been president or mayor of New York or whatever, that he will not be able to do because he thought he was doing something private and, I may add, inappropriate on the internet.
Yeah, it does reveal things about us, that's for sure. I think the Snowden thing is interesting in this way. A lot of politicians on both sides of the political aisle have come out and called this guy a traitor, called him everything in the book. The people we've spoken to that work in some of these agencies will say what he's given up so far, I'm going to say so far, that we know of, it's really nothing new. I mean, our enemies already knew this stuff. In fact, they're better at it than we are in many cases. And that's one of the complaints some of these people have been making, some of these guys that are in these industries, men and women who are fighting for us, really, on the internet, in the World Wide Web, you know, in areas that many of us don't even understand. The question becomes now, did Snowden take other stuff that might potentially harm the U.S. in an effort to save his own life? I mean, I think that's really where the question goes with this, right?
You know, yeah, I think there's a variety of issues there. You know, one is that, you know, people inside, you know, the Beltway or inside of D.C. or people who have classified positions who say, you know, all he's given up is what we knew already. That's kind of inside baseball. Yeah, that's what everybody in intelligence knew already. It's not what the whole world knew already. Now the whole world knows it. So public perception...
But, Eric, the whole world didn't know. I agree with you there, but I think the issue is the whole world didn't need to know. I think it comes down to what our adversaries knew. I mean, that's where I don't care if Joe and Jan in Croatia knew what we were doing. I do care what the Croatian government knew we were doing or what the Russian government knew we were doing. And I think that's where the separation is for me, at least as an American, is I want to know what my government knows on me. I think it's my right as a free, in a free society, or what's supposed to be a free society. At the same time, I don't think I'm not living in a dream world. I mean, the Russians, the Chinese, they knew what we're capable of. This whole idea that we gave them the technology to let them know that how they were being watched, they already knew that. That's baloney.
Yeah, but what's not baloney is that, I mean, look at, just take Germany as one country, and I could just spin off a million different countries and tell you what each of them thinks about the United States now because of what the information that Snowden gave up. A different public perception. They think of us differently, which affects our relationship, and you know, it's going to affect our future relationships, no doubt. So, you know, whether he's given up information that we already knew about anyway, or and is there more to come, which is the big question on a daily basis with everybody in intelligence. How much more is to come out of this guy's mouth? Everyone's worried about that. But the way that countries look at each other is going to be different now. Everything kind of changed because of one guy decided to, you know, give out a lot of information. Also, anybody who's ever worked in a classified position now, it may be at risk for information being exposed that a chapter was closed on classified work that they had done that is no longer closed because of him, maybe. They don't know. A lot of people are very concerned about that in classified positions.
But, Eric, one more question for you. I mean, do you think it's public perception? Because, I mean, I just don't believe that the Chinese and the Russians didn't know or the Germans didn't know what we were capable of. I mean, the information that he's given is pretty well known. If you can it's open source stuff you could find right now. And unless the Chinese, the Germans, and the Russians are completely inept at what they do, they wouldn't know what we're capable of doing. I think the difference here is the general population maybe didn't know, and you have to worry about what that might bring and the ramifications of that. But I mean, the governments themselves knew what we could do. In fact, they're doing the same thing.
Yeah, basically, for the most part, you're right. I mean, but the thing is that in any country where you have elected officials, they get elected based on what the public perception is. So the public has a different perception in a lot of places where there's elected officials who now have to deal with what the public's perception is that they didn't have before. So it really will change history.
Right. Eric Yaverbaum, we have a great website we can show you for Eric as well, associate publisher of Social Mags. You can find him also at the Real Yaverbaum. There's the website there. You can find him. Real Yaverbaum also is as his Twitter handle. So and the website is ericopr.com, right there, ericopr.com. We always appreciate you coming on, talking about everything security. And this is good, such a topic. I think it's not going to be going away anytime. If you haven't heard the breaking news, Snowden has been allowed at least temporary asylum in Russia. Eric, thanks again for joining us from New York.
Thanks for having me.